Okay, it's as good as it's going to get. Hey, everybody, I'm Daddy Sam, and this is A Touch of Gay Pod, episode 68. A Touch of Gay Pod is my weekly check-in with you where I sit down and have a leather-scented discussion about what's going on at my kitchen table, as well as the kitchen table of the LGBTQ plus fishbowl that I find myself in. And today we're talking about HIV PEP. We're talking about social media trolls and also about some upcoming events and a few other things. But let's get right into it. Don't want to waste time with all of the preloaded stuff. I always like to start with our daily inspiration, which is from our social media. This is Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. We don't do the X. A Touch of Gay Pod is our handle there. And every day there is a piece of daily inspiration that I post, stuff that I get from my morning readings, things like that. And sometimes it's sexy, sometimes spiritual, sometimes might even be preachy, but generally uplifting. I try not to be negative, ever. And today it says simply this: do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? The back end content for this basically is the question: if today were the last day of my life, how easy would it be to let shit go? Do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? And this is something that I deal with every day because I'm in the information business, not only here on my podcast platform, but on my other YouTube platforms. I'm a journalist and lots of commentary goes on with those. There's a lot of comments. There's a lot of people that I interact with daily. And of course, I have a day job where I interact with questions of right and wrong. And there's the instinctive thing that many of us have where we just have to be right all the time to feel vindicated, to feel validated, to feel seen. And that's a lot of weight to carry, damn it. It really is a lot of weight to constantly be on guard for those that are assaulting you and peppering you with questioning your authority, with questioning your morals, questioning whatever, your knowledge. I don't know if it's my experience through the recovery pathway of getting over alcohol and drugs and going through that whole recovery thing that helps us sort of look at ourselves and do work. Or maybe it's I'm getting older and it's maturity, having fought enough battles in my life, I don't feel the need to do it anymore. But I have to tell you, letting things go and just being okay with other people doing their thing and not feeling like I need to fix it all the time, that is a recipe for peace. It's a recipe for just being okay with the world. And not everything out there in the world is of my liking. And I sit here, I have a platform, we talk about this. It's just something that it's a frame of mind. It doesn't mean that they are right and you are wrong because you didn't go to battle with them. That gets into my check-in just a little bit because it's time for my check-in where I tell you where I'm at, what's happening in my daily life, and what's going on in my head. And our daily inspiration bleeds right into this. Social media trolls. Oh my God, you are out there in droves. In the last couple of weeks, I've been posting video shorts from our podcast, just little snippets to sort of get people interested and give people a taste of what we're doing here, what we're talking about. And I've been doing this for a couple of decades. I've learned that you put the sizzle out there to get people interested and to get their attention. You don't put the boring stuff out, right? Well, both of those short videos have gone viral, at least in scale to my operation, and getting hundreds of comments. And I'm watching the comments and people are fighting with each other and going to battle. They're arguing with each other, and it's almost always one or two trolls. And I call them trolls. These are people who are just out there living on the internet, who live to be right, who live to fight their fight. They need to feel vindicated. They need to feel validated whenever they see something. And they go out there looking for this stuff because I've seen them over the last 20 years of doing YouTube and social media, watching comments on forums. I used to run a lot of websites with forums. There are people out there that it is their mission in life to go out there and do battle with everybody about everything. They're angry. They disagree. They go places where they're not welcome. They go places where everybody's of a certain mindset that's opposite to theirs, and they just jump in there and they stir it up. That's fine. This is a free country. what's also fun to watch is all of the other people going back on them and trying to fix them, trying to get the troll, trying to reason with the troll to come back around to reality. And I have to tell you, it doesn't work. Okay. You have to let the trolls be trolls. If you feed the trolls, the more you feed them, the bigger they get. I've learned this almost 20 years of being on YouTube. And when I first got into that, whenever somebody would post something that either hurt my feelings or I disagreed with, I had to go in there and go back and forth with them and just live in that. And it's just like that. Do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? It's a lot of work, first of all, and it lives in your head long after you've turned the computer off and you've walked away. It's no fun. And what I've learned as somebody who puts myself out there on a platform, and many of us out there who are just on social media in general as a participant, need to sometimes realize that it doesn't get us anywhere, really. At the end of the day, when you turn it off and you're out there in your real life, are you any better a person? Have you achieved anything by arguing with the trolls or being one? If you're a troll, I mean, does it make you feel better? A troll does not exist solely on one side of the political spectrum. I know some trolls that are progressive gay men in my own community that I call friends. And if you look at them on social media, they're just constantly posting things about the other side of the political spectrum and just going off on it all the time. And it's tiring to look at their stuff. And some people, I love them, but I stopped following them because they're trolls. And the other thing I'll point out is that a lot of these trolls are bots. I've watched people arguing with a bot endlessly. And if you argue with a bot, there is no end to that. They will always have the last word, and you will never convince a bot. You'll never turn them to your point of view. It doesn't work. That's because they're bots. I can recognize the bots because I've been in this business a lot, and it's fun to watch when I see one. And the last thing I'll share on this topic is that if I have posted something on social media or on our website or on YouTube, I've said my piece. If you post comments on YouTube or on my social media, anything I post, the likelihood that I'm going to jump in there and argue with you if you've disagreed with me or if that you're unkind or if that you're disrespectful is pretty low because I don't live in that. I've said my piece. I have my platform. I've said all I need to say on most topics. There is a time now and then when I'm wrong about something, and if I'm wrong about something that I posted, either I'll take it down altogether or I'll put a correction in the note. But I don't tend to fight with people on social media, especially around my own posts. I said my piece. I had one guy on a topic last spring. It was around the tool shed incident. And then when Honey Davenport won the leather contest, this old guard leather guy, gatekeeper, weirdo, started getting on my social media and posting all kinds of debating type of things, trying to bait me into a debate. And I just didn't respond. Then he started sending me private messages and I just didn't respond. He finally said, "Hey, you haven't responded to my messages." And I told him, I don't have time for this. And then he ghosted me because he's a weirdo. He's a troll. So I just don't. I don't feed the trolls, and neither should you. On to some serious content for our episode today. I want to talk about something very important to me. I'm somebody who works in the HIV testing world. I do a lot of HIV testing at events. I am an advocate for PrEP and PEP, which are medications that we can take not only to prevent us from getting HIV, it's highly effective, and PEP, which is something you take after you've been exposed or you believe you've been exposed to prevent yourself from getting the bacterial infections that are popular out there, the chlamydias, the syphilis, and so on, gonorrhea. There's also a PEP, which is post-exposure prophylaxis. There is a treatment for HIV. Basically, this is an emergency medicine taken after a possible HIV exposure to prevent yourself from getting an infection. You have to start PEP immediately, within 2 hours ideally, and no later than 72 hours. And this is a 28-day regimen, essentially of HIV medication. Biktarvy is the one that they use the most for this. You have to take it for 28 days, and this basically protects you from having the virus get into your body, take hold, and multiply. This is for people who are HIV negative only and people who are not on PrEP. If you're already on PrEP, you never need to take PEP. So if you're on PrEP and you know you got exposed to HIV, you're already protected. You don't need to go here. So this is for a pretty small group of people who were maybe exposed with a broken condom, with somebody they don't know their status, if you're sharing needles with somebody, or if you were a victim of sexual assault. These are sort of the limited cases where they're going to easily prescribe you PEP. If you need to get it, go to the emergency room, urgent care, one of your local urgent cares, a sexual health clinic. Do that right away. Don't wait and start thinking, do I feel okay? Well, I feel okay. I'm not. If you have an HIV exposure and it's actually happening, you're not going to feel anything for 2 weeks to 3 months. And it's going to be long too late for you to do anything at that point. If you believe you've had an exposure that you didn't plan for, 2 hours to 72 hours is when you invoke this. And even in some states, a pharmacy can prescribe this on their own, depending on what the laws are there. Now, it's highly effective. It's not 100% effective, but it is highly effective as an emergency backup for those situations. What I will tell you is that if you're somebody who's finding yourself in this position maybe more than once a month, just get on PrEP. If you're somebody who plans to be exposed to HIV on a regular basis, get on PrEP. It's not that expensive. Most insurance covers it. There are programs out there to help people who are underinsured or don't have insurance at all. And worst case, if you have to pay for it out of pocket with the generics that are out there now, you can have PrEP for $30 a month. There's no reason not to do it. I am still surprised at how many people I talk to when I'm doing HIV testing, and they're worried. Oh, I'm not sure about this. This might have happened and so on. I'm like, well, are you on PrEP? And they say, well, I'm not that big of a whore. Well, okay, but here you are and you're worried about it. If you only have sex once in a while, it only takes one time to contract an infection, whether it be bacterial or viral. So if you're somebody who is predisposed to want to have unprotected sex, just get on PrEP. And then you can have as much sex as you want without worry. But if something does happen, there is PEP. And so I just wanted to put a little bit out there because this is a lesser known treatment that exists. And again, most insurance will cover it if you have health insurance. If you do not have health insurance, there are some programs out there with local sex clinics, health clinics that may be able to help you out there, because this is an emergency regime. This is something that can help prevent you from getting HIV. And it's better to not have HIV. If you do have HIV, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just a virus. It happens. Life's a little bit easier and less expensive if you don't have to deal with that. So moving on, this is an event that I want to talk about that looks like a lot of fun. It's the Kink Down South Weekend in Atlanta, Georgia, August 14th through the 16th. This is sort of the South's version of the Folsom Street Fair or the Dory Alley or the Folsom Street East. This is an entire weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And their tagline this year is redefining freedom in fetish. This is not just for men. This is for women. This is for non-binary people, for trans people, and for every shade of the spectrum of the leather fetish and kink crowd, for pups, for rubber, for anyone. And this is a street fair. If you go to the website, which is kinkdownsouth.com or kdsweekend.com, you will find an entire lineup of parties, of education classes, and socials for different types of kinks. There's a social for almost every mainstream kink. And I say mainstream kink kind of tongue-in-cheek because there are a lot of kinks out there that are not mainstream. And if you're part of the mainstream world out there that's not part of the kink community, you think kink isn't mainstream anyway. But I digress. This looks like a fun weekend. And because I do talk about a lot of events that are out here in the West or Southwest, I had to pick one that was back East. And this looks like a lot of fun. Just from the pictures on their website and all of the information, it looks like something that I know I would very much enjoy. If you're watching me on YouTube right now, just looking at me, you could probably pick that out. So kinkdownsouth.com. The website's on the screen if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're listening to us on the podcast, that will be down in the show notes. So check that out, August 14th through the 16th. Yeah. So Catch of the Week, which is our newest segment. This is just something that catches my eye during the week that either sparks my funny bone, or in the case of this week, just makes me kind of sigh. Really? And it's this: Erika Kirk calls on Christians to be happy warriors against trans people and Muslims. Big surprise. Erika Kirk calls on Christians to be happy warriors against, just those three words right there, happy warriors against trans people and Muslims. At the latest Turning Point USA Chapter Leadership Summit in Washington, D.C., Erika Kirk made headlines this last week, urging young conservatives to confront those she described as enemies, including transgender people among those she said need to be confronted. She included Muslims as well, and this is her exact quote. So, I don't care if it's a trans, if it's a gender-confused person, if it's a Muslim, if it's whoever else that's standing in front of you, that's spitting on you, that's cursing at you, that's throwing your buttons everywhere, I don't care. And she concluded with, we are on enemy-occupied territory. Enemy-occupied territory. Yeah, good Christians. Good Christians. Do I really want to respond to this? Do I want to be right, or do I want to be happy? Well, tell you what, I am not going to beat up on Erika Kirk about this. I'll let you all decide how you want to think about her in this way. But this I will say. I grew up in a Baptist church, Southern conservative environment. I went through youth group in high school. I went to church every Sunday. I used to play music at the pulpit. I was the music director for a Baptist church for many years when I was young. I was really immersed in that world. I went to a Christian private high school where I was told every day all of the things that they tell you in those places. Even to this day, I believe there's a God. I love God. I am very spiritual, and I have a connection to the God of my understanding. But that's not the God that I was taught about back in those churches. And what I will say about the church and religion in general, it's a club. It's a club. God and spirituality and what's right and wrong is over here. Religion and churches over here. They're clubs. Those are man-made creations. God and spirituality are our powers. We still can't explain. Most people can't, but they know what it feels like. I know what it feels like. I know when I'm doing wrong. I know when I'm doing right. I know it in my core. I believe that there's a power out there that is far greater than myself that is part of my everyday life. And I see it in other people's lives as well. What I do know of Christianity is that it tends to be a club that's out there to create division. It tells its members that they are under threat, that they need to be fearful of the outside world. We are on enemy-occupied territory, she said. We're on enemy-occupied territory, she said. Onward, Christian soldiers, so on and so forth. I don't want to go on all day. This is not a Christian broadcast. This is a leather fetish, kink, gay, male-dominated broadcast about lifestyle in that way. But it doesn't mean that God can't be here. atouchofgay.com is our website. You can see us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. A Touch of Gay Pod is our handle there. Our audio podcast drops every Sunday on all the major platforms. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see the little graphic with all the little chiclets there that show which ones those are. And of course, YouTube is our primary flagship location right here. A Touch of Gay Pod is our handle as well. And if you're here, you might be seeing us on Friday, sometimes Saturday. It's whenever I get the edit done. Last thing I always like to plug is gayphx.com, which is a streaming gay radio station 24/7. And we drop every Monday at 10 a.m. there. They're a great little radio station, a lot of music, a lot of news, entertainment, podcasts, and more, like ours. And if you're watching us on YouTube today, you'll see that I am wearing my favorite outfit, which is my Mr. S leather harness and armbands, flagging red, of course. That's all I'm wearing. Yeah, how about that? I hope you enjoyed our episode today. I love all of you. If you are watching us on YouTube, you can see our latest video right there to my left. And right below that, you can click on the big round logo and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're on the podcast, please subscribe there as well and give us a good review. Either way, Stay tuned.